Breakpoint is a twin-stick shooter, but with melee weapons? And they have a bunch of weapons. Also, explosions. Breakpoint has a ton of explosions. A split-second decision could be the difference between life and death. Breakpoint is intense. The screen fills with enemies as you're trying to group them up, but stay alive. The enemy variety helps the game feel fresh every run. You'll never have exactly the same combination on screen, so you're constantly making judgment calls to stay alive. The best part is the weapon break system. It's a fantastic mechanic and has more strategy than you might expect. First, each weapon has a heavy and light attack. You must choose the best for each situation. Second, the bits you pick up from dead enemies isn't for score, but to power up your weapon. When it's charged, it will break once the meter around your arrow is depleted. So you can manage when it's going to break and send out the burst of energy to create an explosion. I start the breaking process on a small amount of enemies I want to get rid of. Then, when I know it's actually going to break on the next swing, I clump up as many as I can for those giant explosions. The more enemies you can destroy at a time, the better. Duh, I know. But not only because it helps clear the screen, but because you can pick up all the little bits they drop. The more bits you collect, the more powerful your weapon becomes, up to 3 times. Its swing is a little bit bigger, and the break will cause a larger explosion. I find it satisfying all around. Picking up the bits plays a rising scale of sound to pull you in, then the release of the large explosion is delightful. Anyway, the last bit of info you need to know is you have the ability to throw the weapon. Luckily, it doesn't leave you without one. But since you know when the weapon is going to break, you can throw it and it will cause the explosion over there. Adds another layer to the mechanics. Breakpoint is a simple game with a great mechanic. I'm 125th on the global online leaderboard. Come see if you can beat me. Beat 'em up like Streets of Rage? Car game like Outrun? $1980X has 5 minigames closely based off older games with the intent to trigger your nostalgia. There's a story here about the main character discovering a place where they belong, an arcade. They use games as an escape from their troubled life. As an example, here's them longing to be in one of the cars leaving the city while they're stuck inside.
There I was, up in my room, just like every other night, counting taillights on the highway. Soon the cars below would reach the city.
It's all to set up the minigame with the car. The character wants the freedom to drive away from their home, but instead escapes through the game. Some of the setups work better than others. I only found the final game to be the most compelling. It's more surreal than the other games, but I finally felt the real world bleeding into the game world. 1980X could have done a much better job combining the two worlds. The developer didn't slack on the pixel art though. Each frame of the story is a meticulous piece of art. In terms of mechanics, the minigames are fine. Programming one game is difficult enough, but to include 5 different ones inside your game? Whew. So I don't hold it against them too much, but the minigames are bare bones. They have great pixel art. I like the unique style of each, and they are enjoyable to an extent. but not much further than the nostalgia. Look, I could tear apart the minigames one by one, but 1980X is better when everything is put together. As a whole game, it's trying to tell the story, and conveying it through the minigames isn't a bad way to do it. I wish they took it a little further though. You'll care about the game if you care about arcades. However, the ending is a little abrupt since this is considered part 1. I couldn't find anything on a continuation of the story or the developer's plans, a roadmap, or whatever you call it. So I recommend it, but with the caveat it's short and there's not really an ending. Please put 20 minutes on the clock. On your mark, get set, build. When rebuilding a society, you start with the basics. Food. Our people need food. How about some shelter next? An apartment building or two should do it for now. Well, now they don't have anything to do. Let's give them jobs. Oh, this is why a city's layout is always so confusing. With only 20 minutes to build, it's stressful, even with the game's extremely minimalist mechanics. But 20-Minute Metropolis is a puzzle game. You will learn when to expand and in what order to collect the resources. Funny thing is, the only building which gives points is the park. So all this marketing on the Steam page about rebuilding is a little confusing. You do need to build your city and gain resources to build a park, but it would feel better if your city was scored as a whole. So the name of the game is to build parks early and in mass numbers. Their score is added to your total every couple of seconds, so building them early will increase their value in the long run. Even though 20-Minute Metropolis has minimal mechanics, they're precise. The game doesn't contain anything which isn't useful. I like how you need to generate work to utilize the harvesting nodes completely. You even need to make sure the roads you lay out can handle how much is flowing through them. Anyway, 20-Minute Metropolis has a short lifespan. Once you figure out the best way to build, you'll find it easy to play again, until you reach the best possible score or become bored. After all, the map has the same layout every time. Still, it's a very smart mechanic and I enjoyed solving it. The biggest negative is how little content there is for such a fun game. I'm cooking up some explosive videos, so hit subscribe and come along as I find some incredible indie games. Thanks for watching.